Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Hello and welcome to the third episode of Living the Dream with Curveball podcast. Today, I am here with Jose Tamayo. He is an entrepreneur and a business leader, and we're going to talk to him about leadership, and maybe you can get some words of encouragement on him with him if you're looking to become a leader. Jose, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's a true pleasure to be here tonight uh, on this incredible podcast. So thanks a lot, Curtis, for that.
No problem. Why don't you start by telling us where you're from and what encouraged you to be a leader?
You know, I'm originally from Miami, Florida. Currently living in Fort Myers. It's about a 2-hour drive, I think, northwest actually of Miami. I grew up in Miami and was in that area from 1980 all the way through to last year, in fact, in the same area, and made a lot of friends there. And Curtis, I think that what really got me interested in helping people help themselves and help others was to see how people grow through progressions. And I think that recently I read something about leadership, and it said leadership uh, is done from darkness. Leaders are built or build others from darkness. And I think that when I read that, I thought, you know what? How amazing that we're able to bring in people and to help them become leaders. And so I think the mark of a true leader is someone who says, you know what? I'll let you shine. And my light is not for me, it's for you. So if there's anything I've taken from my reading and my learning, you know what, is that rising people up and helping people to see them go through the progression to becoming new leaders. That's what really drives me to do this every single day of my life, and I'm enjoying it even more as I continue to educate myself.
So, how long have you been a leader, and how many people have you successfully helped to become leaders?
Oh my goodness, I don't know how many people I've helped, but let me tell you something. I think that everybody that we touch every day has an opportunity to see who we are, and we have an opportunity to learn from them. So, if I were to look at it in terms of numbers, um, I don't know what the actual number is, but what I can tell you is that everybody that's come into my life has taught me things about leadership. Um, Starting with a couple of my mentors whom I talk to every day. I think that talking to the people that you're working with every day is so important. And you know, my don't know that there's a number, but I do know that every single time I look at somebody and I see how much potential they have as we continue to focus on their strengths, right? Because there's a whole lot going on about looking at people's weaknesses. It's simple to say you've got this and you've got that, but when you look at people's strengths and you focus on those, even if it's one or two, and most people, I think all people have um, many different strengths, and helping people discover that while I discover my own strengths, I think is what's really rewarding about this. So if I were to say a number, I don't know, to be honest with you, but I know that each and every person that has come into my team, which is probably over 100, has impacted me in ways that is unimaginable because they've made me a better leader, because of what I've learned from them.
I know you talked about talking to your mentors every day, but let's say a famous leader. Do you have any famous leaders or any past or present leaders that you look up to and say, hey, he or she encouraged me. I want to be like them and want to lead the way that they do because I'm so impressed the way that they do things.
Well, I think leaders are readers, and the first book that I think that the first book I read was the Bible, and the very first leader I look at is Jesus, and then um, later on down the line, I had the opportunity to read about Nelson Mandela, a great leader. I saw what he went through, read his books, all the different things, the 27 years that he was in prison, the kind of things that he had to go through just because of someone else's philosophy and thinking, and how he prevailed through that to come back to be prime minister. That's just amazing. Another person that I've actually admired for a long time, because of what because of where he came from and his background. Two more people I'm going to talk about. One of them is Barack Obama. I've read a lot of his books, and I've read his family history, and I've seen how his dad and how his mom and where they came from, how they shaped the man that he was and the leader that he became. And then John Maxwell. John Maxwell has impacted over 2 million leaders across the world. He's written a bunch of books. I listen to him a lot. And, the rest are like Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy and a couple of others. But my top four, I mentioned them at the beginning. I think that I look at those people, the legacy they left, and what they did with people, because they put themselves first. When when you see that about a leader, one of the biggest assets that a leader has is putting others first. And those people that I mentioned before were focused on putting others first, which is what I really enjoy reading.
Well, I know you do a lot of reading. Is there any other books that you would recommend potential leaders out there read, or are there any books that you're looking to currently read?
I think that I actually read about 3 books a month, and one of the books I'm reading right now is called Achievement Habit by Bernard Roth. And I think that for anybody who is looking to get into leadership or relate better to people, uh, the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie is probably the first book I recommend because it presents an opportunity to see yourself and to be able to relate to people. A lot of us, including myself in the early beginning, it was we're all about me sometimes, and that's okay. It's okay to be about me. But once you start reading what leadership is really all about, you start looking at um, that it's really not about you; it's about someone else. And Brian Tracy, I think Eat That Frog is a great book because it really talks about what you really got to do to get out of your situation wherever you are. And this last book I'm reading right now, Bernard Roth, which is The Achievement Habit, I think that when you look at that, he talks about, what? A lot of people have a lot of different habits. But when you get achievement habit, you know what? Because there's gaming habits, there's drinking habits, there's internet habit, there's social media habit. But when you discover achievement habit, it's the same thing. It's just in a different direction.
Is there any words of encouragement that you could give to somebody that might be listening to this podcast and saying, hey, I like what he's saying. I like what he's doing. I would like to get into it because, you have to have that knack to be a leader, and everybody's just not built to do. Some people are built to follow. But what words of encouragement would you give somebody if they want to try to get into leadership and team building?
I think that if you decide to be a leader, you can be. I think that leaders can be made. And one of the books that I recommend, and in terms of encouragement, the 17 Indisputable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. In it, he talks about how you can become a leader if you wanted to. You don't have to be a follower. And my advice to anyone listening to this today is that I think that there are three things that everybody should be doing, and with no exception, because I think it was Jim Rohn in his book, The 12 Pillars, is that he said, you know what, you can have a job, all right, and make money to pay your bills, but a self-education program is going to get you to be free, really free. And what do they mean by that? I think that everyone should be reading great books. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that read, and I read the fiction books as well. I read a lot of biographies, leadership books, but reading, number one, reading is really, really key to changing the structure of your mind and your mindset. And I think that it helps to create a better awareness and context by which to grow into. Number two, hang out with people who are going somewhere. You know what? There are a lot of people going somewhere, but they're not, going somewhere. I mean, successfully moving upward. Um, and number three is get to some events. Attend events from people in the community, leaders in the community that are going to help you grow. One of the things that Dale Carnegie said was that, you know what, if I lose everything I've got today, all I want to do is sit next to a table of people who are discussing um, prosperity, people who are discussing becoming better, and I just want to grab the small leftovers, because out of that I can become better. And once you become successful, in terms of habitual, um, and you follow. I think you follow these three suggestions. Read a lot. Okay. Um, Two, hang around with people who are going somewhere, and number three, attend events that are going to help you grow. I promise you, where you are today, and where I am today is nothing from where we can be tomorrow. I promise you that.
Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you would like to touch on before we bring this to a close?
I think, yeah, I think that I want to thank you, Curtis, because I see what you're doing, and bringing people together. But use this time. Um, I think a lot of people are talking about a pandemic nowadays, and they're talking about the negative aspects of a pandemic. But I want you to have a perspective and think about this. This is not the first time we've been through a crisis like this. It's happened quite a few times, actually. If you read the history books, you'll see, the Civil War, we can go back to the Great Depression. We can go back to World War One. And all this is saying, and I promise you that all this is saying is that we have to be willing to adapt, and we have to be willing to change. Here's the opportunity that the current situation is bringing. A lot of businesses may have gone out of business, but you know what? For years now, they've been talking about market trends and whatever, leadership trends and all that. But today, the trend of today is intellectual leadership, is where you bring people together to do something and make a difference. That's what's, in my opinion, that's the future. You know what? Stores are moving from brick and mortar to online. A lot of people have moved to online um, product marketing, conferencing. I mean, I was watching Les Brown yesterday do a conference from his living room to about 50,000 people. So the landscape is changing. People adapt. My suggestion is adapt, make a change and embrace it, because what's coming is a lot bigger than what we even think.
Jose Tamayo, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me today, Jose.
It's been a pleasure and an honor to be part of this. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.